So welcome back to another one of my videos, and thanks to Martin for being my cameraman today. Do you want to show yourself on film? No? So I'm back in Snowdonia and at Llyn Padarn. So if Martin wheels around, and I'll show you, this is quite a famous tree. You might have seen it if you've done any kind of Google image searching for around this area. So just to kind of position where we are, this is Llyn Padarn, and it's in the Llanberis Pass. So heading up, the village of Llanberis is just on the side of the lake, but then you head up Llanberis to Snowdon itself. So if you've done any Google image searching for around here, you quite often come across an image of this tree, and you can probably see why. It's a nice isolated in the lake, and it makes for a nice composition. One of the things we love to kind of moan about in Britain is the weather. If we're not moaning about the weather, we're moaning about the weather forecast. Weather forecast today said sunny spells, so I was anticipating coming here and having some nice maybe blue patches in the sky, but it's just grey from horizon to horizon, grey. So not what I was anticipating, but may as well make the most of it while we're here. So I'm going to try and take some images of this tree. Unfortunately, the water level, it's not rained much, so the water level is a little bit low. So that makes it a little bit more challenging, because the kind of the banks of the lake are not very attractive. But I'm going to try my best, and I'm already thinking it's going to be in black and white image, because you can't really see anything in the distance other than grey clouds. So I'll get my focus on the tree, frame up a composition, and then I'll show you on the camera. So camera's all set up and ready to go, and I'm framing a picture with the tree as the focal point. So if Martin just comes around here, I'll put live view on, and hopefully it already looks black and white, and trust me, that's a colour image on live view, but it already looks black and white, so you can see why I think it's going to become a black and white image. So hopefully you can see on the camera, I've got the tree on the kind of right hand side. On the rule of thirds, it's in the right hand third, and then the lake and the mountains in the background. I'm deliberately looking now for quite a gloomy image, because it's going to be black and white. You know, there's no colour, there's no real light. So I'm going to try and work on that. I'm on, actually, I'll just change that because I was just messing with something. So I'm on F11. You see that's brighter now. Hopefully you can get an idea of what I'm trying to do. I'll just drop that down so it's at the, yeah, I'll underexpose a little bit because I'm going for that gloom. So I'm on F11, and that's a ½ second exposure. I've got 2 graduated filters in the front of the camera to take out, because the sky has got no detail in it. It's just that horrible grey cloud, which actually in future video I'll tell you why that, when it's good to use that cloud, but for landscape photography it's, you know, there's nothing to it. So I've got 2 graduated filters in the front, which gives me about an extra 3 stops of exposure on the sky, so to try and balance out that grey and the gloom. So it looks quite a nice balanced image on the back of the camera. It gives me ½ second, take the shot, and let's have a look, see what that looks like. So yeah, it's okay. I'm not happy with these rocks in the foreground, so I think I'll kind of recompose that a little bit. Some of the rocks are breaking the plane of the or the edge of the frame, which is never pleasing to the eye. So I'm going to reframe and then try again. So I've recomposed the image a little bit. I'm not really happy. This is a slate mountain. In fact, there's a slate quarry and so on and so forth around here. So it's a slaty kind of environment, and that can be quite appealing. But in this case, the tree's got a lovely curve in it, and obviously the mountains are quite curvy, but the slate in the foreground is quite harsh and angular. And the problem is, if some of those slates are jutting through the frame, it's really distracting around the edge of the frame. But because the water level's so low, it's quite hard to get a composition that hasn't got those slates coming through the frame. So I'm going to have to kind of mess about with it a little bit, and it's a little bit frustrating. But I'm going to try a couple of different compositions. If Martin just spins around to look at the tree, you can see the tree's got a lovely curve that kind of comes left, goes right, and then goes kind of, you know, like a banana almost. That lends itself to being on the right-hand side of the frame, because the eye is then kind of circulates back into the frame. If it's on the right-hand side of the frame, it takes the eye out of the picture. Hopefully that makes sense. But what I'll do is I'll do a couple of images, one with the tree in the right-hand side of the frame, one with it in the middle, and one with it in the left, and then hopefully you can see what I'm talking about and how I think the composition with the tree to the right is much more pleasing to the eye than having it to the left. So I'll do that. It's going to be 3 images, right, middle, and left, and then I'll post them together so you can do a compare and contrast and hopefully get the idea of how the shape of the tree almost dictates the composition. But I'll do that now, and then I'll post them at some point after I've stopped talking now. So I've done my 3 different compositions, the tree on the left, tree in the middle, and tree on the right. Now what I've done is I've switched to portrait orientation of the camera. So Martin, we just have a quick show. So obviously switch the camera that way. The reason I've done that is so I can get a little bit closer to the tree. The challenge if you're on landscape, you get closer to the tree, you're cropping some of the branches off. So I've gone portrait. It's given me the opportunity to get closer and remove some of that kind of foreground. It's like, it was almost the kind of chaotic nature of the rocks in the foreground. It's not great. I really wish the water level was higher, so I'm going to have to come back at some stage when there's been a lot of rain, maybe in the spring, although it's raining down the valley at the moment, but not very much. But when that water level's a lot higher, it'd be easier to isolate the tree from the surroundings. So I'm having difficulty doing that at the moment. But I've gone portrait. It looks okay on the back of the camera. There's still, I'm not 100% happy with the slate rocks in the foreground. But I'm 100% certain that that's going to be a black and white image, because even if Martin shows you back of the camera, it won't take much to convert that into black and white. It's more or less a monotone landscape at the moment anyway, which is quite different from what I was anticipating. You know, as I said earlier with the weather forecast, I was anticipating a bit of sun on the mountains and maybe some bit of blue sky, but we are where we are. So I think I've probably done all I can given the conditions with this tree. But I've seen photographs of this tree in all kind of full leaf in the winter and whatnot. So it's one of those things I wanted to come and have a look at myself. So I've been and had a look, taken some images which hopefully come out. And I'll post them up. But Martin and I went for a bit of an explore later on. There's some interesting trees just on the edge of the lake, about kind of 500 yards away. So I think we'll stroll down there and see if we can get some images of that without kind of Martin pushing me in as he was trying to do before. And hopefully he's not cut my head off because he's holding the GoPro really low. Hopefully you've got my head in that image. So quite a different location. We've only come about 500 yards along the side of the lake. As you can see, we're under the trees. When we first arrived, we parked up and we just walked along, and I spotted this from kind of over. We were over there, so there's some really nice clear water, but we obviously didn't wade across. We've got to come round a bit of a stone. Someone's made a kind of like a homemade stone bridge kind of thing. But what I spotted, and it's one of those, it's the sort of thing that catches my eye. It doesn't always translate into a great photo, so this is a bit of an experiment. I don't know if you can see it because of this branch. Let's move out of the way a little bit and see if Martin, I'll try without getting too wet. If Martin can, that's nice camera work. See that tree on the other side where it's got kind of 7 or 8 multi-branches coming out? It's a lovely reflection in the water. I love the fact it's covered in moss and lichen, and you know there's no leaves on it, so it looks a bit gnarled and green, but then this water is so clear, it's getting a lovely reflection. So I'm trying to take an image which just shows focused on the kind of the center of the tree, and just showing the symmetry of a reflection of that image. So branches coming that way and the reflection going that way. I hope it works. I've taken the shot. I'm on f8, and that's giving me a 2-second exposure. So I'm taking another shot now. And what I hope, when I get the image back home and do some processing, I can really pull out those greens and create like a kind of the mirror image effect in portrait mode. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it turns out quite well. It's quite gloomy, which is actually working in my favor at the moment. If it was really bright, it'd be hard to get the detail in the tree out and balance it with the brightness. So that's working in my favor. The fact it's cloudy is working in my favor. But it's just, I like this type of image. I like kind of the symmetry of things. I like looking at across lakes and lochs and seeing the reflections. Some of the people who follow me on Facebook, Alex, if you're watching, always comments on the reflections that I do. I like a good reflection, so hopefully this is one. And I like the kind of the mossy environment we're in. So I'll take a couple more shots and see how that goes. So on our way home, back in the car, and time to call it a day. The forecast sunny spells never happened. There was a brief glimmer of sun and we legged it back to the side of the lake, but it was only brief. So we've packed up and we're heading home. So I hope you enjoyed the video, probably quite a short one this time compared to usual, but had to make the most of the weather conditions, and the weather conditions weren't great. But I'll definitely come back to Llyn Padarn. Hopefully, maybe it'd be nice with a bit of snow around, or kind of in my mind's eye, it'd be great if the lake was frozen over a bit and all icy. But anyway, hopefully come back at some stage. Hope you enjoyed the video. If there was anything you didn't understand, do leave a comment. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon. Cheers.